It's interesting. We've had some bragging coming from the now suspended CEO of Cambridge Analytica, saying that we did all the research, we did all the data, all the analytics, all the targeting. Why does this leave Facebook data, do you think?
Yeah, well, like I say in my piece, there's a saying in the ad tech world, just because it doesn't work doesn't mean you can't sell it. That sounds like a great sales line from the CEO of Cambridge. I don't know if I quite buy it. You know, the reality is psychographics has been used for a while. It's actually a decades-old sort of practice. In this case, it's a little bit more quantitative in that they built a quantitative model. But remember, you know, what they did was they built a Facebook app. They built a model based on responses to that app. But at the end of the day, you still have to find that user on Facebook. So you still actually have to use Facebook's targeting data. It's otherwise it's very difficult to actually find that user on Facebook. So I think, you know, the real challenge for them would have been taking their model and actually translating it into Facebook data. That's, I think, part of the story that's going a little underreported. So I don't think that Facebook's data was at all dinged by the existence of Cambridge Analytica, in my opinion.
And then let's dig into the other main part of your story, being that we're all getting very het up here, particularly across the media. We're shining a light on this. People are worried about the safety of their personal data. But actually, perhaps the irony is you think even if they use the personal data, this sort of use isn't very effective. It wouldn't have helped Trump win the 2016 election, you don't think?
Yeah, no, I really don't think so. You know, I think one of the big stories about the election, at least from my point of view, is that a lot of the techniques and strategies that the sort of regular commercial world has been using for years are only now being experimented with by the political campaigns. And so, you know, I think there are a number of techniques, and I wrote another piece for Wired about how I think Trump actually did win the election. And that was using a tool called custom audiences, where they joined to voter rolls and first-party data that the RNC had. And that really is valuable. That's kind of like the retargeting that you see on Facebook after browsing on a web page or whatever, and you see that same set of shoes. Well, Trump also did that. But the reality is what Cambridge did, in many ways, is very old. This isn't a new story. I remember when I was a product manager at Facebook, I actually met with a team from Cambridge who was working with what was then one of Facebook's largest advertising partners, TBG Digital, and they were also building psychometric models and trying to use it. You know, at the time, it didn't work terribly well, but they didn't have a lot of options. Facebook only shipped a lot of these great targeting things in 2012. And so, I think in some ways, they're kind of stuck in the past by using the models they were using, in my opinion.
That's fascinating. So you, while at Facebook, were meeting with Cambridge Analytica. I want to get your perspective, having worked at Facebook. I went to your Twitter feed, and you said, actually, potentially now there is turmoil within Facebook. Before, they held hearts and minds. But talk to us what you put on Facebook, that potentially now there is big sign of turmoil.
So just to clarify your earlier statement, I didn't work with Cambridge Analytica, but I did work with, or I did meet with Cambridge psychologists who were working with the partner at the time, to be clear. But to answer, yeah, a lot of Cambridge going on in that story. But just to answer your question, yeah, I mean, to me, one of the unique things about Facebook was, even relatively late in its history, and even though I seem early now, I joined when the company was already 2,000 employees. There was this real feeling of being mission-oriented, right, and being very motivated for the overarching mission of Facebook. Everyone really was a believer, and thus it was really a hard nut to crack. Many journalists couldn't get employees to leak. The fact that now lots of different outlets, Wired that I write for and others, are actually finding lots and lots of sources, kind of sitting there and kibitzing about the internal intrigue of Facebook, that's really unusual. And in my opinion, I have to say it's kind of a bad sign for what's going on internally.
I mean, to voice what Facebook has put out, they said privacy and data protections are fundamental to every decision we make. The policing of data is going to get a lot tougher at Facebook, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I think that's true. I mean, certainly the part of Facebook that I worked on, which was the ad system, not the platform system that leaked the data here, was super paranoid about data and was really aggressive about advertisers in terms of not leaking data. I mean, that may not have been the attitude reigning on the platform side. I mean, the weird thing to me, to be honest, is that there actually aren't that many users of Facebook platform anymore. I mean, when's the last time you used a Facebook app, right? Probably not very recently. And this was a big initiative the company had in 2011. It didn't really take off, and they've kind of left it sitting there. And so, yeah, I think one of the constructive things the company could do is to be a lot more aggressive about how it deals with partners on the Facebook platform side, so that this sort of thing can happen again.